When you fire up an app, you just expect it to work, right? But what does it really take to get to that point? Well, today, we're going to dig into two totally critical, but really different ways of looking at software quality: static and dynamic testing. Let's break down how these two keep our digital world from falling apart. Oh man, we have all been there. That moment of pure frustration when the app you're counting on just dies. In a world where software literally runs everything, our banks, our cars, you name it, these glitches aren't just little annoyances. They can be serious, sometimes even dangerous problems. So how do we stop them from happening in the first place? That is exactly what we're here to figure out. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why this all matters by looking at the seriously high cost of bugs. Then we're going to meet our two main characters: static testing, think of it as testing the blueprints, and dynamic testing, which is more like running the gauntlet. We'll get super clear on the difference between an error and a failure, and then we'll wrap it all up by seeing how these two work together to paint a complete picture of quality. So first things first, why are we so obsessed with testing? Because today, a company's software is its reputation. A buggy, unreliable app can absolutely sink a brand, while a rock-solid one builds trust and keeps people coming back. Quality isn't just some nice-to-have feature anymore. It's the very foundation of business success. And believe me, the stakes are incredibly high. We're not just talking about losing a paragraph in a document. I mean, think about the software running in cars that are driving themselves, where one tiny flaw could have life or death consequences. Or a banking system where a bug could make millions of dollars vanish. Bad software costs a fortune in time, money, and reputation. Quality is, without a doubt, non-negotiable. So how do we actually build that quality in? Well, our first approach is called static testing. I want you to think of this as being the proactive detective, the one who shows up and inspects the architect's blueprints for a skyscraper before anyone even thinks about pouring the foundation. It's all about preventing problems before they start. So at its heart, static testing is all about looking at the raw ingredients of the software, the lines of code, the requirement documents, the design diagrams, without ever running the program. It's like a chef checking every single ingredient for freshness before they even start chopping, or an editor proofreading an article for typos before it goes to print. You're looking for flaws in the plan itself. And this isn't just some casual, quick look over. No way. Formal reviews are a huge part of static testing, and they follow a really structured process. You start with planning, then everyone does their own individual prep work to get familiar with what they're looking at. Then the whole team gets together for a review meeting to discuss everything they found. And finally, you get to fixing the defects and reporting on what happened. It's a systematic, team-based hunt for problems. And the whole idea behind this? It's really simple, but it's so powerful. The person who wrote the code is often the last person to see their own mistakes. It's just human nature. So bringing in a fresh set of eyes during a review helps catch all the things the original author might have completely missed. It's true, more eyes really do find more bugs. Okay, let's completely switch gears now. If static testing is checking the blueprints, then dynamic testing is when you take the finished car, fire up the engine, and take it out for a spin on the racetrack. This is the hands-on inspector who needs to see if the thing actually works when you put the pedal to the metal. The key word here, the big difference, is execution. With dynamic testing, you are actually running the software. You're clicking the buttons, you're typing in data, you're trying to break it, you're pushing the system to see how it behaves in real time, and checking if it does what it's supposed to do. And dynamic testing isn't just one single activity. It happens in layers, kind of like building blocks. First up, you've got component testing, where you check the little individual pieces of the code by themselves. Then, integration testing makes sure all those little pieces play nicely together. After that, system testing looks at the whole thing, all assembled. And finally, acceptance testing is where you confirm that the software actually meets the customer's needs. Okay, so we've looked at the how for both static and dynamic testing. One inspects, the other executes. But to really truly get their value, we need to talk about what they're actually looking for. And to do that, we gotta get a little nerdy and be precise about what a bug really is. Now stick with me, because this chain of events is so important. It all starts with a human error, a simple mistake a programmer makes. That mistake creates a fault, which is basically a bug or a defect that's just sitting there, hiding in the code. But here's the catch. That fault might not do anything bad until the exact right conditions are met. And when that piece of code finally runs and the fault gets triggered, that's when it causes a failure. the app crash, the wrong number, the visible problem that makes us all pull our hair out. And that brings us to the absolute core difference. Static testing is all about prevention. By looking directly at the code, it finds the faults, the source of the problem, before they ever get a chance to cause a failure. Dynamic testing, on the other hand, is detective work. By running the code, it finds the failures, the symptoms that tell you something has gone wrong. It tells you that a problem exists, and then you have to go digging to find the fault that caused it. So, which one is better, static or dynamic? That's actually the wrong question. The real answer is you absolutely need both. They're not competitors fighting for the same job. They are partners. They're a team, catching different kinds of problems at different stages of the game. And if you want to know why using both is so critical, you just have to follow the money. There is a golden rule in software. The earlier you find a bug, the exponentially cheaper it is to fix. A mistake you catch in a document during a static review, that costs next to nothing to correct. But that exact same mistake, once it's been coded, built, and found by a customer out in the wild, oh, that can be incredibly expensive and damaging to fix. So let's bring it all home. The bottom line is this: any solid quality strategy has to rely on both. Static testing checks the blueprints to make sure you're building the thing right. Dynamic testing test drives the car to make sure you've built the right thing. You simply need both to build software you can be confident in. And that leaves us with a final and pretty critical question. In today's fast-paced, agile world, the pressure to ship software fast is just immense. So knowing that static testing prevents fires while dynamic testing puts them out, where should teams be focusing most of their effort to get the biggest bang for their buck? That's something every single development team has to wrestle with. Thanks so much for joining me.